Deep in the mountains, in an old forest untouched by people, the breath of the wind moved slowly through the trees. The seasons changed, the leaves changed, but the quietness held steady, soft and unbroken. When the day ended and the sun slipped behind the ridges, the forest exhaled a deeper breath and welcomed the gentle dark. In that forest lived a rabbit, a fox, and a gentle monkey. They never bothered one another. They never fought. Simply sharing the same woods, resting under the same trees, listening to the same river was enough. They did not need words to feel the warm, easy comfort of being together in the same place. As the sky dimmed, the forest grew even more still, as if preparing for something quiet and familiar. The calls of small birds faded away, and the wind slowed its steps, brushing softly through the grass. Leaves leaned toward one another, whispering in tiny, hushed sounds. Then, above the treetops, a round, full moon began to rise. It climbed slowly without hurry, carrying a calm and gentle glow. Its light touched the highest branches first, then drifted down little by little, as though greeting each tree in turn like old friends meeting again. The rabbit lifted its head from a small stone near the meadow, not startled, just quietly acknowledging the familiar light it had been waiting for. The fox curled its tail closer under the shelter of a low branch, watching the moonlight settle softly on the soil. And the monkey, sipping water by the river, paused to see the silver path spreading across the still surface. The forest settled deeper into calm. The river carried a thin, smooth line of light, and the wind moved gently, careful not to disturb it. Even the dew on the leaves glowed softly under the moon, remaining perfectly still. Under the moonlight, the leaves deepened in color, a quiet green wrapped in silver. Light and shadow blended together with no sharp edges, only a soft, slow meeting. Like ink spreading on old paper, the glow drifted outward, filling the woods with a peaceful hush. The rabbit, the fox, and the monkey closed their eyes for a moment, feeling the moon settle around them like a gentle blanket. They remembered without thinking that they were part of this forest, and the forest was part of them. The forest grew quieter still. The river's sound lengthened, as if stretching into the night. The wind passed between the branches with a low, tender tone, a sound that lingered deep within the woods, unrushed and unbroken. Nothing needed to move quickly now. Everything stayed where it was, letting the night sink in. The darkness felt warm. The moonlight felt soft, and the animals rested in that steady, wordless peace. And so, under the full moon, the forest drifted slowly into a calm night untouched by anything else. The quietness rose and fell like a slow, steady breath. And within that rhythm, the rabbit, the fox, and the monkey simply existed together, silent, peaceful, and fully at ease. The moon continued its patient glow, and its light rested gently on the forest floor, shining without a single tremor. A slow, tranquil night unfolded, a night that felt as if it could ease even the deepest restlessness into sleep. Night had settled deep into the forest. The moonlight had softened, and the wind moved through the leaves in a slower, gentler rhythm than during the day. With that wind came a quiet sound, a soft, steady step drifting in from far away. The footsteps did not break branches, and they did not rush across the ground. They simply approached, like someone who had walked a long road, looking for a place to rest. When the moonlight brushed the path, an old traveler appeared. He carried a pack on his back, though nothing about his movement felt heavy. His steps were slow and calm, as if he knew the forest well, as if moon, wind, and earth were companions he had traveled with before. His clothes held the dust of distant places, the faint lines of long days and long miles. Yet he did not look troubled. He looked only a little tired, the kind of tiredness that asks for a quiet moment more than anything else. The rabbit, the fox, and the monkey did not startle when they saw him. The moonlight had already gathered them together, and the traveler's presence did not disturb the calm of the woods. The old man paused gently and spoke in a soft, warm voice. "Would you share a little food with me?" His words were calm, like rings in an old tree, each one slow and even. It did not sound like a request. It sounded like someone greeting the forest itself, as if this was simply where his journey had led him tonight. The animals did not hurry. They looked at one another quietly, taking in the moment as naturally as they took in the moonlight. A pale glow ran from the old man's feet up to his shoulders, painting him in gentle silver. It didn't make him stand out. It simply welcomed him, the same way it welcomed the leaves, the branches, and the stillness around them. The traveler stood in the center of the clearing and slowly closed his eyes. A long breath left his chest, as if he were setting down something he had carried for many miles. The forest accepted that breath, and the breeze softened as it moved around him. The animals felt a quiet curiosity, not sharp or sudden, but slow and steady, like ripples moving across a calm river. The rabbit brushed a few leaves nearby. The fox rose gently from under a branch. The monkey set down a small fruit he had been holding. These small movements were not actions meant to change anything. They were simply part of the forest's living rhythm, part of sharing the night with someone who had come a long way. The old man watched them with a soft, spreading smile. The kind of smile that belongs to someone who has wandered far and finally found a peaceful sight. The moon lowered a faint bridge of light between him and the animals. It shimmered gently across leaves and grass, never rushing, never breaking. The forest found its stillness again. The place where the old man stood, the spots where the animals rested, all of it settled into the same slow and quiet rhythm of moon and wind. The traveler looked around. He saw the distant river, the stones touched by moonlight, the thin branches swaying lightly. Everything was new to him, and yet familiar, as if he had returned to a place he had known long ago. He did not ask if he could sit under the tree. He didn't need to. The forest had already accepted him. So he lowered himself gently onto the softest patch of earth, set down his pack, and released a long, deep breath that almost felt like relief. Moonlight wrapped around his shoulders, soft and steady. The river murmured in the distance, a quiet sound that felt as if it could last all night. The fox watched him from afar before shifting slowly with the breeze. The rabbit nibbled quietly on grass, keeping the forest's rhythm alive. The monkey leaned against a tree and let his eyes follow the slow shimmer of light. The traveler nodded faintly, saying nothing, but understanding everything. The welcome, the silence, the shared peacefulness of the moment. The forest became a single breath, the old man's quiet exhale, the animal's small movements, the moon's soft descent, and the wind's gentle path, all flowed together into one calm, unbroken night. The traveler closed his eyes. The wind brushed past him, as if lifting a little of his fatigue. The moon lingered near him, like a silent guardian, and the forest asked nothing more of him. No stories, no destination, no reason, just to rest. And so the quiet night continued its slow, peaceful rhythm, holding the traveler, holding the animals, holding the forest itself in a single, gentle breath. The place where the old man stood, the spots where the animals rested, all of it settled into the same slow and quiet rhythm of moon and wind. The traveler looked around. He saw the distant river, the stones touched by moonlight, the thin branches swaying lightly. Everything was new to him, and yet familiar, as if he had returned to a place he had known long ago. He did not ask if he could sit under the tree. He didn't need to. The forest had already accepted him. So he lowered himself gently onto the softest patch of earth, set down his pack, and released a long, deep breath that almost felt like relief. Moonlight wrapped around his shoulders, soft and steady. The river murmured in the distance, a quiet sound that felt as if it could last all night. The fox watched him from afar before shifting slowly with the breeze. The rabbit nibbled quietly on grass, keeping the forest's rhythm alive. The monkey leaned against a tree and let his eyes follow the slow shimmer of light. The traveler nodded faintly, saying nothing, but understanding everything. The welcome, the silence, the shared peacefulness of the moment. The forest became a single breath. The old man's quiet exhale, the animal's small movements, the moon's soft descent, and the wind's gentle path, all flowed together into one calm, unbroken night. The traveler closed his eyes. The wind brushed past him, as if lifting a little of his fatigue. The moon lingered near him, like a silent guardian, and the forest asked nothing more of him. No stories, no destination, no reason, just to rest. And so the quiet night continued its slow, peaceful rhythm, holding the traveler, holding the animals, holding the forest itself in a single, gentle breath. The moonlight grew deeper as time passed. The darkness of the forest softened, little by little, and trees, stones, and small blades of grass began to reveal their shapes under a gentle silver breath. The night air was neither warm nor cold, just a quiet touch resting softly on the skin. The monkey climbed slowly up a tall tree. The old bark held the moonlight in its grooves, and the light shimmered gently with every small movement he made. Round fruits hung between the branches, glowing like calm pieces of the night. The monkey did not hurry. Even the simple motion of reaching out his hand followed the rhythm of the forest. When he picked a fruit, no sound echoed through the air, only the soft touch of his fingers and the quiet weight of the fruit resting in his palm. Meanwhile, the fox walked toward the river. The ground beneath him, washed in moonlight, was neither bright nor dark, and his steps were almost silent. The river had let go of its daytime energy and now flowed slowly, matching the quiet pace of the night. When the fox reached the water, a long ribbon of moonlight stretched across the surface. It reflected everything: the fox, the trees, the soft ripples. Without disturbing, the stillness. Near the riverbank, the fox sensed the faint movement of a small fish. Its motion was gentle, almost woven into the rhythm of the current. The fox reached out, not as a hunter, but as a friend of the forest, and welcomed a tiny fish into his paws. There was no chase, no tension, only a quiet moment, flowing naturally with the river. The water continued its calm path, and the moonlight drifted across its surface in slow silver waves. The rabbit wandered through the forest. Each of his steps pressed softly into the grass, which rose again after he passed, leaving behind a faint, trembling trail. But no matter how carefully he looked, there was nothing he could bring back. He explored the bushes and even circled the small burrow where he rested during the day. Still the forest remained, too peaceful, too still to offer anything he could carry. So the rabbit stopped. He did not feel upset, nor did he feel burdened. He simply understood in a quiet and natural way that on nights like this, there was nothing to gather, only the slow breath of the forest to share. Lifting his head, the rabbit looked up at the sky. The full moon hung large and round, and even the thin clouds around it moved with a soft, drifting flow. The moon spoke no words, yet its presence alone felt like comfort. Moonlight touched the rabbit's long ears, filling them with a gentle glow. His white fur shimmered faintly, as if dipped in pale silver, and he blended quietly into the soft darkness of the trees. For a moment, the entire forest seemed to pause. Leaves, branches, stones, and tiny drops of dew all rested under one shared breath of light. The monkey's fruit, the fox's small fish, and the rabbit's empty paws, all belonged here. All were part of the same calm night. The rabbit gazed a little longer at the moon and wondered slowly and quietly how far that light had traveled. Over mountains, across fields, through seasons and years. How gentle the journey must have been to arrive here so softly. He imagined that quiet flow and let it settle inside him. His empty hands felt like part of that same light, carrying nothing, yet holding something peaceful. A light breeze brushed past him, as if agreeing with his thoughts. It moved the grass just enough to whisper. The forest stayed calm. The trees swayed gently, keeping the moon, the breeze, and the animals, and even the old traveler, within one wide, peaceful cradle. The rabbit no longer searched for anything. There was nothing he needed to find, and nothing he failed to bring. Simply being here completed the picture of the night. The moonlight added the final touch, a soft glow over everything. The rabbit took a slow, deep breath and let himself rest inside the stillness. He looked up at the moon again, holding not a gift in his hands, but a quiet acceptance in his heart. The forest continued its slow rhythm, and every living thing found its own peaceful place within the gentle flow of the night. As the night grew deeper, the moonlight softened. It drifted across the forest floor like a thin silver wave. Dew began to gather at the tips of quiet leaves, and the trees swayed slowly with the calm breath of the night. In that stillness, the rabbit lingered in thought. He remembered the gifts his friends had brought, the monkey's fruit, the fox's small fish, and then his own empty paws. Yet something warm was quietly spreading inside him, something deeper than any offering. The rabbit lifted his head. He breathed in slowly, letting the moon settle on his fur. The soft light brushed over him as though whispering that everything was all right. He turned gently toward the old man. The rabbit's steps were lighter than a passing breeze, and only a faint rustle of grass followed him through the night air. Standing before the old man, the rabbit spoke in a quiet voice. "I have nothing to give, but if I can be of help, I would be happy to serve." His words spread softly, slower than sound, as gentle as moonlight settling onto the ground. The old man lowered his gaze. There was no surprise in his eyes, no heavy emotion, only a calm recognition, as if he had known the rabbit's heart for a very long time. Moonlight touched the old man's face. In that moment, something subtle shifted in the air. The wind did not change, and no new sound appeared. It was simply the feeling that the moisture, the light, the scent of earth and trees had deepened by a single quiet layer. When the old man raised his head again, his expression had not changed. Yet the moonlight stayed with him longer, clinging gently to the lines of his face and softening the shape of his presence. It was as though the moon and the old man had become a single gentle glow, a glow the forest seemed to recognize. Trees, leaves, and shadows rested in one slow rhythm, as if they had known his true nature all along. A small smile appeared on his lips. It was barely a movement, but it held a peace as old as a long-told tale. Moonlight flowed into that smile, making the old man look like a quiet lantern. A lantern that had traveled through countless forests and winds, carrying a soft and ancient light. The animals watched him without a word. They accepted the change the way one accepts a shift in the breeze, naturally, effortlessly. The river reflected the moon and sent out slow waves, and those waves traveled gently into the deeper parts of the forest, as if embracing the old man all over again. He said nothing to the rabbit, no thanks, no praise, Yet the silence around him was warmer than any spoken gratitude. His presence alone smoothed the rabbit's heart. The rabbit did not try to understand what the man truly was. It was enough to know that the forest, the moon, and the breeze had quietly welcomed him. The old man closed his eyes, and his outline softened further, becoming part of the trees and part of the shade. He looked as though he had always belonged there. The rabbit slowly closed his eyes as well. Moonlight settled on both of them, and a gentle breeze brushed past their shared silence. The forest watched over them and sank deeper into calm. The trees stopped, their small swaying. The river stretched its long, thin ripples, and the moon laid a warm touch over every living thing. That night, the forest quietly recorded a story. The rabbit's tender heart and the old man's gentle smile. It was a story with no words, no sound, carried only by the wind and remembered by the moon. In that quiet tale, the rabbit's small decision and the old man's true form rested peacefully, without conflict, without movement, just stillness, soft and deep within the night. Moonlight slowly wrapped itself around the entire forest. As the night deepened, the light grew clearer, and the shadows of the trees stretched long and quiet, sharing the darkness between them. High in the sky, the round moon watched over everything, glimmering softly like an ancient, patient eye. The air beneath that light was still. Even a single breath carried the cool scent of dawn. As it settled gently into the chest, drops of dew gathered on tiny leaves, shining silver for a moment before fading and returning. Each time the faintest breeze passed by, nothing in the forest moved, and in that deep stillness the moon shone even brighter. Within its glow, a faint shape began to appear, the shadow of a small rabbit. It wasn't solid nor sharply outlined, but if one stared long enough beyond the usual focus of the eye, a gentle form slowly revealed itself. Two small ears, a round little body, a silhouette shaped as if carved by time itself, resting quietly on the moon's surface. The figure held a peace that no wind could disturb, a quiet soul resting beyond all noise of the world. The rabbit seemed to be sleeping, or perhaps simply breathing softly, his calm drawing the forest below into deeper stillness. The god of the sky said nothing, yet the moonlight grew softer, and the darkness of the forest settled in deeper, warmer layers. The night's gentle warmth felt like a silent promise, and within that promise the rabbit's heart rested quietly. The trees swayed slowly, their roots to their leaves filled with something like the moon's own warmth. Old trunks seemed even older, and tiny blades of grass trembled softly, as though touched by the rabbit's faint breath. The forest kept its silence, but that silence felt full, like a story whispered from long ago. As the moon climbed higher, shadows softened, and time itself seemed to move more slowly. It was as if the world had always followed the moon's gentle rhythm, resting in its quiet flow. On a small pond, the moon's face appeared. The rabbit's shadow floated atop the still water, shifting only when the surface moved by the smallest ripple. And even then, the rabbit returned to his place in the reflection, so slowly that the movement could fit into just a few breaths. The creatures of the forest watched the moon too. Sleeping birds felt the soft light slip through their feathers. Small insects ended their long day in the moon's faint glimmer. Every living thing looked upward, toward the rabbit resting quietly in the moon. Those who stared long enough felt as though the rabbit were smiling, a tiny, gentle smile, holding gratitude for the world, kindness for the old man, and the quiet desire to help wherever he could. A warmth impossible to explain, yet easy to feel. So when the full moon rose each month, people lifted their heads, even far from the forest. Some greeted the rabbit softly, some released their worries with a slow breath. Most simply gazed upward without a word, finding comfort in the warm shape resting in the moon's light. The rabbit's outline grew clearer as the night deepened, then slowly faded as dawn approached. By the time the sky softened into morning light, the rabbit's figure slipped away like the last trace of a dream. But gone did not mean lost. Whenever the moon returned, the rabbit was there, resting just as quietly as before. The forest knew, the wind knew, and the God who once watched over the rabbit knew as well. And anyone who lifts their gaze into the night sky can feel the rabbit's gentle heart, a heart softer than sleep, quieter than words, warmer than light. And as long as that heart remains, the moon will always rise, like a quiet forest, slowly, deeply, and brightly in the peaceful night sky.